That's great. Okay, now, so we will have an exciting session on demonstration method. And I would first, before we get into the topic, I would first, discuss with you what we have done so far. We have so far done about 5 sessions, including today. But that includes 2 sessions on the introduction to the cognitive methods, where we spoke about multiple learning methods, learning theories actually. So this leaves us with another 7 hours of engagement. And as per my reckoning, it will go on up to 3rd of December. Is that okay? Or do you think we should do a double session on some days so that we don't exceed cross November?
I suggest that we go slow so that everybody understands.
Okay, so up to 3rd December is okay with you?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
fine
sir.
with me, sir. Yes.
Okay. Fine, then I'll for this only. More or less, I think the schedule is pretty clear. I have not put 12th November deliberately. I think 12th November happens to be Diwali day, and I'm sure that day nobody would like to be disturbed. So I have avoided that. If we take 12th November also, then we can finish during the month of November. That depends on what the head office will do. But I think we will avoid a class on the Diwali day. All right, textbooks and all is common. Okay, now why is it important to have demonstrations? We are all trainers. We are dealing with adult learners. And by and large, these are the people with certain years of experience in organizations. Why do we still need the demonstration method in an organization? Mind you, demonstration has been a very, very successful method in teaching sciences. In physics, chemistry, I'm sure all of us have gone through certain demonstrations by our respective teachers in our schools and colleges, where the demonstrate an experiment, and sometimes the experiment was repeated by us individually or in small groups, pair of 2 or a group of 3 or something like that. And that has helped us to learn the theories better, the concepts better. But why do you think demonstrations are required in training situations, which is partly more of an art and less of science? Do you still think demonstration is a very, very effective method? And if you think so, why do you think it is effective? Can you share your experiences?
So, Bharat this side, am I audible? Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible. Continue.
Right. So, when it comes to demonstration method, actually, it is one who has the experience of doing the same task, and again, it is proven that the way of doing is different. And
So I
sometimes,
request all others to mute their audio so that we are able to hear the person who is speaking. Yeah, please
okay.
go ahead.
So when it comes to demonstration method, so this is usually the person who has a complete understanding about the task and already been in that role. So he can have a proved result out of that, the way he is doing. So once he do demonstration, it gives confidence to the learner also. Thus, yes, this is the way is effective and it can yield a better result.
Okay,
So hence,
have you
yeah.
ever used demonstration? If so, for which concept have you used it?
So so I have done for coaching per se. So I'm a trainer in a pharmaceutical company. So the line manager who deals with the territory representative. Okay, so some of the critical situation when they find that the person is not doing the way it is expected. Okay, and even repetitive feedback also not giving any impact. So hence that time it is required to do the coaching. And many of the people are not comfortable on coaching because it is more of asking rather than giving a solution, taking out the solution from the learner. So I used to do demonstration in front of that manager, so as he can understand what kind of the question to be asked, so as the person will realize the importance of the task and the way of doing, and thereby the stickiness of that method will be better.
Okay, is there anyone else who has used a demonstration in their experience?
So I would like to share my. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you,
Morning.
Mr. Bharat.
Morning, sir.
Morning,
So I
morning.
think, as you rightly mentioned earlier, for those aspects wherein it might be technical in nature, so especially these days in the organizations, we do have fire safety training, wherein people are explained how to use fire extinguisher, and that's one of the common ways in which people learn what would be the right way to use an extinguisher, which would be a demonstration kind of an approach. Also, in technical trainings, especially like let's say flight simulators, etc., wherein pilots get trained, demonstration ability allows them to understand the nitty-gritties of the component as against going through the presentation or reading the material, because it might take more time. However, when the participant undergoes the demonstration by himself or through somebody else, they are better able to understand the concepts.
Okay, I mean that's great. Basically, demonstration. All of us, one demonstration that none
Sir,
of
I have
us will ever say
sir, I
that no. Yeah, I'll come back to you 1 second. Is the Newton's third law of motion, irrespective of where you have studied across the world. Everybody will repeat the Newton's third law of motion because that is something that every one of us have seen in demonstration in the class and we have tried it on our own, right? Yeah, okay, Mr. Biradar.
very simple. In demonstration, more sense organs are involved. That's why we learn very effectively. Hand, head, touch.
Very right, very right. I think
Yes,
the more
yes.
and the sense organs are involved, obviously your ability to learn and retain is much easier, and therefore, demonstrations, as is mentioned in the last point here, is very effective for low achieving trainees with high visual and spatial intelligence, but with limited cognitive abilities. So demonstration has to be necessarily used by us in certain classes where this method is suitable. Irrespective of the cognitive abilities, it helps some of those who are of low cognitive abilities to learn better. So you have different levels of people who are students in your class or trainees in the class. And therefore, to address this section of the class and to make them feel satisfied, it helps us to actually learn better and give better sense of satisfaction. Now, having said that, can we now go ahead and ask, discuss about what are the steps involved in this? What steps are involved in demonstration method? How do you go about actually conducting a demonstration?
So it would be in terms of briefing what the demonstration is all about, what are the various steps, again depending on what's being demonstrated, if there are any safety related measures to be taken into consideration, those would be highlighted. And then probably there would be a gradual approach in terms of explaining what are the various steps to be executed till the time the entire demonstration is over.
Okay.
Just to add, I think what is also important is during demonstration, encouragement and giving confidence to the participant that similar tasks can also be done by them. That it is not only that the expert who is demonstrating, but others can also do equally well.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's
Planning
more
of
of
the
allowing.
first one, sir.
No, one,
Planning of the demonstration topic or your planning of the lesson plays a very vital role in demonstration method when we speak about.
okay, madam, when you
And moreover,
1 second, let's probe a little more. Smita ji, I mean, what do you mean by planning and execution? Can you explain it?
So when example, if we are going out with a science experiment, because I teach only the high school children, so when we speak about a science experiment, so basically the planning is we just can't go haphazardly telling the steps in a different order. So we need to first plan the lesson plan, how we are going to execute them first in ourselves first. It is about introduction to the chapter, which makes more curious The demonstration part comes later, even before the planning of the meticulous planning of the demonstration should always happen with a structured lesson plan. It
Okay.
just can't go in a haphazard manner. With that, basically we have introduction of the session key, what we are doing, that has to go with the second step. Third one is about how we are planning about how to present a subject matter. And the fourth one goes with the methodology or the demonstration method. Later on, find out the feedback about from the students or make them do, basically. So this is what I feel is the steps involved in demonstration method.
Okay, so basically, as I keep saying, in training and development, in this diploma program, all these methodologies that we are talking about, methods we are talking about, it is not just the know-how of the methods, it is the do-how of that. That means you should be able to independently practice. I think that is what you should pick up during these sessions. Later on, when you go into your training sessions, you should be able to do on your own. Now, somebody has raised their hand. You can speak now. I think Debian, somebody.
Yeah. So actually, I was saying that only because when we are demonstrating anything, we should let the participants, practice those things on the class, and then they can literally, apply those things in the practical field.
Okay, can any one of you remember something which is memorable, something out of the world kind of experience in demonstration? Is there anything that you have ever come across? That comes on top of your mind?
What exactly is
So
it?
with
Please
regards
repeat
to school days, all the experiments in chemistry and biology as well as physics class,
Okay.
I guess everything was related to demonstration. So
Okay.
most of us, I guess, we would be able to recall those.
Yeah, we were made to dissect this cockroach.
Okay.
We were supposed to bring cockroach from the from our house, and we had to dismantle it part by part.
Okay.
I think that is the only thing I remember.
Okay. Okay. So then, I will show you something which is worth seeing today. Before I start the other parts, let me first show you one small video. I mean, it's a long video actually. You can see it yourself later on, but I will show you only about 5 to 6 minutes of this. So let me start this, and I'm sure you will really love that. One second.
సరిగ్గా అవుతుంది కదా
ఏ తప్పు జరిగినా సరే పెయింటింగ్ పూర్తిగా అర్బన్ కంపెనీ ప్లాన్స్
One second, I will.
He said I had so much fun. Yeah. So much fun.
Just give me a minute, I will start showing that.
Take your seats, please. I'm actually building in 40 minutes. And after that, I will give anyone.
Are you able to see the video?
About 50 minutes.
Yes, sir.
You can see that?
Yes, sir. We are able to. There's no sound.
No sound?
No sound.
Yes, sir. Sound is not there, sir.
So when you click on the screen, share screen, there's a option at
The
the bottom.
sound is there, Siddharth, but it is very feeble, I suppose.
It is very low, I think. We were not able to, sir, hear those sounds.
Mm-hmm. What are you saying? Someone is saying about the audio?
Yes, sir. So when you click on share screen, at the
The audio
bottom.
is very low, actually. The audio is very low, sir. Maybe you can increase the volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the screen share, what happens?
So it's properly visible. Screen is properly visible, but
So
sound
there
is
is
not
an
there, sir.
option wherein you can enable the voice while
Sound, yeah,
sharing this particular
No,
video.
there is no voice enabler separately.
The gravitational acceleration, which is.
Sir, I think you can try
Probably,
increasing your laptop volume, basically, or your.
It is.
No, it's both are in full volume, ma'am.
so probably the volume on the slide for this video might be on the lower side.
No, then I will directly put it. No, it is direct only.
Object a drop.
Yeah, the sound is feeble. We are able to hear a little, but
It's high. And I dropped 0 to speed after the 1 second.
1 second.
চলো এটা চলে যাই হ্যাঁ
Maybe you can reshare.
Yeah,
Stop and
that's what I'm
reshare.
trying to look at.
Understand why it is readers.
আগে কিছু খেয়ে নেবে খায়
Sorry?
ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
Yes, yes.
হ্যাঁ এখানে গোবিন্দ দাস থাকবে তো
After another second, it will add to that.
1 second. I think I will directly share. I will stop sharing the.
And after 3 seconds, 3 seconds. So now you understand why it is meters per second. That's why it
Is it better now?
No.
there's some real
So do you want me to play the video?
must go against
Yeah,
somebody else tried.
I think the recording of this video itself is on a lower side. So
No, I'll put the link in the chat.
How to make money online? मेरा सिंपल सा सवाल है कितना कमा
And, maybe you can play it from your end.
so you have to enable screen sharing.
It is already enabled, I think.
No, sir.
No?
No, it's currently disabled. It's not allowing us to upload the link.
1 second.
এটাই চলে যাবে তো নাকি
Okay.
তো make him a co-host
It is enabled. Try that.
No, sir, not yet. Not yet.
No, it is all participants. Now
Amit, it's enabled.
Yeah,
Okay,
try.
let me try one more time.
Try now.
Okay, now it is showing me the option. Just a second.
Yeah. Try that now.
Yes, sir.
আমরা দেখো এ তো 2000 করে রেট বলছে তো গাড়ির এইখানে ওই হরে কৃষ্ণ
So
মোটর
are you all
জেনে
able
নি
to see the screen?
This Samsung
Auto-
SM,
হ্যাঁ, auto-
somebody please mute him. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody has to mute the.
Samsung SM.
হ্যাঁ সেটাই
Is it visible, the video as well as the audio? Is it audible?
Yes. We are able to see the video. Audio, we are. Let's see.
বলছি ওই সময় একটা রেখে দিস না ডিসেম্বরের ফার্স্ট উইকে
Can I
Yeah,
request
who's
everyone
this?
to be on mute,
Samsung,
please?
Samsung SM.
3 দিন কি করব তখন
Rao sir, kindly mute all.
Yeah, that is what I'm going to do. I think you should do that.
Rao sir, kindly mute everyone.
Amit, this is not the video. This is 51 seconds. Huh?
No, this is not the one.
This is not the one, Amit.
This is not the one?
No.
This is not the one. This is 51 seconds video.
Please take the one
Okay.
which I have shared, in the chat.
Sure, sir. Just a second. But audio was fine, right?
What spikes your sugar level?
Audio is good. Audio is
What
good.
spikes your sugar level? Does rice spike your sugar level, or when you eat roti, you see the
Yeah, you go to 20th minute. It is a very long one. We can't watch everything. Go to 20.
and all that energy.
Oh, yeah. So the recording is low.
I think it is recording problem.
The recording here.
Now when it hits the floor,
But anyway, the
some of that kinetic energy may be converted into heat.
important thing is the demonstration. And subtitles are there. Just look at that.
So in other words, when it bounces back, the total energy is no longer the full MGH, but is a little less, and so it won't bounce this time. But there is no way that it
He's a very famous physics professor from MIT.
Well, that would solve the world energy problem. Because you simply sit down and you watch the ball game. And there goes the ball higher, and the second one it goes again higher. If it goes the first time higher, it will do that the second time. And so after an hour, that thing is about a few thousand meters in the sky. And when it comes down on the floor, it has an enormous speed, great amount of kinetic energy. And so you got energy out of nothing. But there is no such thing in physics as nothing, so that's not very nice. So the object can never go any higher than it is. And with a tennis ball, there is also what we call the dissipational feature when it is. Now, the situation is difficult with a pendulum because a pendulum doesn't hit the floor. And so there is no heat loss because it doesn't hit the floor. So if you bring a pendulum at a certain distance above the ground, like this, and you let it swing,
You please observe what all he is doing.
it is almost exactly at that same height. It cannot be higher. That would be a violation of the conservation. But since the air drag is so small, there is almost no dent. And in fact, when you saw the demonstration I just did, you may have noticed that you really didn't see this. Really kept going and kept going. As long as you realize that if I release it from a certain location with zero speed, it can never, when it comes back, higher than that. This whole idea is behind demolishing buildings. With a building demolishing, you take a huge mass, you lift it up over a distance h, and then you put your target, which is your house, or whatever it is, right at the bottom, when all this potential energy is being converted to kinetic energy, and so this object hits an enormous amount of energy, high speed, and you demolish thereby. Here we have a glass plate. Better go out of the way because it's going to be a dangerous experiment. It's a glass plate. So if I bring this object exactly at that glass wall, and if I'm clever enough to let it go with zero speed, it could not break that glass. But if my hands shake a little, and if I give it a little push, then of course it can come back, and it may want to go higher than this, and that would mean
most working professionals will hate me for saying this, but Google Sheets is the worst tool to use.
I know you guys. Students love it. That's why they pay such a high tuition at the money. That's okay. Now comes an experiment. This emotionally the most difficult topic. I'm going to put my life on the line. Show you that I really believe of the conservation. And you will see how I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the place of the glass. And I'm going to hold this object at my chin. And I cannot move any further back, so there's no cheek. I'm going to release it right from my chin. You realize, as you have just seen, that the slightest push this will be my last lecture. And no book signing afterwards. So I need your collaboration. When I count down from 3 to 0, no noise, no coffee, and I would even appreciate for those seconds who don't even breathe. And I have to tell you something. I couldn't see. I'm going to close my eyes, don't want to see, and I'm going to count down from 0.
Yeah, I think we can stop it. Then we will discuss. Yeah.
That was awesome.
All right. Okay. So how did you like that?
It was a good video, sir.
Interesting.
Only interesting?
It was very engaging. In fact.
Exciting. Thrilling rather.
Yeah.
Effective demo, sir.
Sorry?
Effective demo, sir.
Ah, very nice. Very nice. Yeah. True.
And that's why MIT is at the top.
I believe in any demo as shown by the professor of MIT, is we should be the subject, or we should say that you have to be you when we are giving the demo, or any person over here is giving the demo. We need to be in the center of it, and as someone said, be prepared for it. And also, because the professor over there was prepared to do it with the glass and then test it upon them himself. So that was the easiest way and the best way, because when the joke is on you, people will listen to you better.
Okay. Great. I think he is one of the most accomplished professors in physics and most talked about. Remember, he has done it at the age of 75. And when you see the full video, you will realize that this particular video was shot at the age of 75. And the previous time that he did it was 12 years before. That means at the age of 63. So between 63 and 75, he did not do it. So please, when you have time, please watch the entire video of 1 hour and 3 minutes. You will really like it. No, you will.
We're copying the link, sir. We're copying the link.
Yeah. You not only will like it, you will also use it in your sessions. It's pretty inspiring. Okay, now coming to it, how do you actually do the demonstrations? How do you make them very effective? I think here are some of the steps that I have mentioned, and we will go through each one of them one by one, and you would see exactly the same steps have been followed by the Professor Levin. First is prepare ahead. Have complete procedures written for quick reference. You would have noticed that he was referring to his book whenever it is required. And what was he doing? He was giving the concept on the board. He was explaining it to the audience. And then he was preparing them mentally to go through the demonstration. First with the glass, which was more of a fun for them. But the second one is, I think that is where he said, I believe in physics. He loved physics. He believed in physics. And he said, I'm ready to put myself on the block because I believe in the principles of physics. Then you have to practice demonstration. Practice all demonstrations in advance. I'm sure he wouldn't have done what he has done unless he had made thorough practice for several days or weeks. Right? I think as Shuili Deb ma'am said, it's very important that you be a part of the subject. You be a part of the experiment. I think the audience will believe it much better than, doing something else. Make the demonstration visible. One of the problems, of course, demonstration is whatever the facilities that MIT has, all other colleges may not have it, or all other universities or the organizations may not have it. But even within the limited means that we have, as much as possible, if you have got what can be seen and what can be used in terms of apparatus, the equipment and all that, that will be more convincing. Now, you will have to keep asking questions and have a dialogue with the audience, engage them. Before you straight away do the demo, please engage them. And it increases the interaction, it increases the involvement of the audience. Don't tell the audience exactly what is going to happen. Like in this case, most of you may not have seen this video before. You wouldn't even know why this professor was doing it. And he was actually shaking, shivering at the age of 75 that is expected. But still he was so damn confident the experiment will go through well, the demo will go through well. And therefore, so please make sure that whatever the steps, there are few steps that you would have noticed. One, the whole demo was visible to them. He was never coming in the way. He was behind it. For every step, he was detailing what he's going to do. And then, and when you see the whole, 1 hour video, you will learn a lot more about how do you prepare for a demo, how do you implement a demo, and what are the steps that you'll have to follow them. There is very, very clear. Then, encourage responses. I think that is very important, particularly in our training situations in the context of organizations. You must allow the audience to ask questions, because in physics, the answer is always in science, not only in physics, the answer is the same. Whereas in the areas where we operate, the answers are many. For a single issue or for a single question, answers are many. Therefore, the scope for discussion is much more than what it is in physics or for that matter, any science. Now, one of the things that we must do if you're a trainer and you want to use the demonstration method as one of the methods for you to support your training program, I think you must have all the required, equipment or whatever the stuff that you need, and make sure that you have got enough storage space for them. A simple thing like in-basket exercises. In-basket exercise is not a very complicated thing, but then very effective. All that you need is 2 tables, 2 people to man those tables, and invert tray and outward tray on both the tables, and a few papers that are prepared in advance with certain content on that. So you must be prepared with all this material in advance, and then you should be able to actually demonstrate to the audience how in the organizational context the managers work, and how do you actually deal with the incoming and outgoing, the communications which are received in writing. Then you please have a file which the professor there has actually maintained a book of his own, where he has detailed his own steps in terms of how effectively he wants to take it forward. Now, store essential materials for demonstration and clean up and restock after the demonstration. In this case, as you have seen, there's a destructive experiment. The glass broke, obviously. If you want to do it time and again, repeatedly, you must replace the material that is required to be kept. Okay, these are the few points that, you should keep. And then explaining the concept is very, very important. And please remember, he did not go into too many technicalities. It's a simple experiment of a pendulum, simple pendulum. He was explaining multiple concepts using some mathematical equations. And though he's a professor of MIT, he did not make it very complicated. And practice showmanship. I think that's very important. Although he's a professor, to some extent, he's also a showman. He has used the right words at the right time to keep the audience engaged, to keep the audience glued to his demonstration, so that none of us actually will forget that experiment or the demonstration. Then safety is very important. One thing that I think, particularly when you're using some of the participants as a part of your demonstration, you should be very, very careful that later on they should not go and complain against you or even file a case against either the institution or the organization or the person. Particularly when you're dealing with the human subjects, you should be very, very careful. It should not lead to any ugly situation of a legal litigation later on. At the end of the demonstration, it's important that you tell the audience what exactly has been the learning. And it is useful if the learning is actually articulated by the audience rather than by the concerned trainer. Okay, these are the few points for effective demonstration. And any case, this PPT will be available to you. Do you want to add anything more to it? Or is that clear to you?
Sir, there is a saying called 5P.
Please share that with us. Tell us.
5P. Prior proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Okay. Fine. I think that's another way of presenting it. Easy to probably remember it. But I think what is important for us is in the demonstration that we have seen in that 5-minute video, all these things are very evident. I think the value of that video comes to me because whatever has been discussed in theory is actually put into practice. That is more important. Right? Excellent. Any other point?
Sir, just wanted to
details about maybe it looks more relevant to the classroom training. Okay.
No, we'll come to the organization. We have one more activity. First of all, I wanted to demonstrate to you that the steps are very important. They are very essential to be followed. And demonstrations, by and large, even in the scientific literature, are more successful in sciences, right? Where the answers are pretty clear. But it is not that, organizational training does not use it. So in the next 3 events activities that we're going to do, where we will use some of the participants, you will see it is useful for the trainers as an effective method. Okay.
No, so I'm not saying that the organization and the classroom. I mean, classroom means there is a set of maybe the training, organization training also. However, is it having a relation with OJT?
No.
So in demonstration, sometime it required in on-the-job training also.
No. We'll come to that aspect. No, what you're talking about. You see, demonstration can be a precursor to your OJT. So you demonstrate something, then you ask somebody, the individual, to practice it on his own, on the job, right? Now, for example, if you're taking some apprentice in the company and the apprentice has to work on, let us say, a lathe machine in your company, so you may ask a foreman who is a very well experienced person to first demonstrate how to work on a lathe machine. It may be to a group of apprenticeship trainees, and then having observed that, then each one of them will work on their own on a lathe machine to practice it. So sometimes demonstration actually precedes the OJT.
Thanks.
Have I answered that?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Jigar Mistry, you wanted to say something.
So, sir, during demonstration, is it also important that the participants are part?
Okay. Demonstrations primarily, as one of our members said, you should be a part of the demonstration. That it is more, the conviction is more, people will be paying better attention and better involvement. But all demonstrations, you cannot be a party to it. And in training context, you will sometimes or quite often use the participants as a part of the actors of the demonstration of what you want to actually communicate to the larger audience. So which we are going to do in the next activity. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So if we are done with that, the number of steps, I think the managing demonstration is very simple, which you can understand. So what are the essential characteristics of demonstration? Showing physical examples of process or technique. In our case, most of the time, we are all people who are working in organizations, and we are going to conduct the training program in the organization setting. Therefore, we are not going to use any physical, pendulum or a bicycle or whatever. Most likely, we're going to talk about the processes or some techniques. And our objective is to create organizational effectiveness. Therefore, we are going to focus on those areas. So explain the concept that links the process and technique, describe the reason why. I think in the activity, you will understand at least in one concept that we're going to demonstrate how effectively it can be used in the context of an organization. The beauty about demonstration is the class will be engaged and people will be looking forward for what is going to happen next. I think that is what is important. And after demonstration, trainees display competency of the skill and the concept they observed. I think the classic example is what I have mentioned to you, the Newton's third law of motion. Most of us may not remember the first two laws of motion, but the third law of motion, all of us remember. That is because of its effective demonstrative ability. It makes demonstration of make demonstration goals clear in the very beginning. Basically, in the case of Professor Levin, I think he wanted to tell the physics concept and not only just share the concept, right? He wanted to make them understand that he believed in that and he was ready to put his life on the block for that reason. So that is the conviction with which he has worked. If we also can communicate that kind of a conviction with our audience in the training programs, I think the buy-in will be much higher for those kinds of concepts and values. Now, what are the steps? I think one of you have said 5 P's, but then this is basically what is the concept which you want to demonstrate, presentation of subject matter, what are the people, what are the material that you need, what are the training aids that you need, and how actually you want to sequence your presentation or the demonstration is very important. And finally, at the end of the day, you have to evaluate whether it has gone on well or not. And it is quite possible that some demonstrations may not go well. Right? You tried, but it failed. Doesn't matter. I think you should continue with the demonstration, refining it in your future sessions of training. So don't give up. If you think that demonstration is the right way to communicate a certain concept or a certain process or a technique, use it. If you don't get the evaluation is not in your favor, please don't give it up. You try how best you can improve it next time. And over a period of time, I'm sure each one of us can master it very well. So what are the merits of the demonstration? It will help the trainees to have a deeper understanding of the topic or concept. I think whatever you have seen of Professor Levin today, I'm sure for the rest of your life, you will not forget it. I wish some of my professors or my college lecturers did some of those experiments, which would have, remained a sort of a picture forever kind of a thing in my mind. But unfortunately, all of us are not MITs and we don't have those resources. So it engages trainees and makes them remain active in the training process. You would have seen people, the audience there are pretty senior people, but everyone was glued. Nobody was deviating from what he was doing. So leads to effective learning, enables principles of reflective thinking. I think this is a very, very powerful way of making people to think about it. It is not that you observe somebody doing it, because the person who has actually demonstrated is a part of the demonstration. I think you would remember it, you would discuss it with your friends, and that reflection is what actually makes your the learning, reinforces your learning. It helps create interest among trainees, helps in arousing the spirit of discovery among the trainees, and imparts maximum learning to the trainees. Demonstration, role play, on-the-job training, these are all learning through experiences, and therefore they'll have more powerful impact on the learner in terms of learnability. But there are some demerits of it. First is, not everybody can be a good demonstrator. I'm sure there's only one physics professor who has done it. We don't have every other college professor, we don't have a video of such a thing by any of the IITs in India or IISc in India. Obviously, not everybody can do it, and therefore there is a lack of experienced demonstrators, and that is one limitation. Now, trainees cannot benefit from with the direct and personal experience. The trainer carries out the demonstration. Where you are not involving the trainees, yes, definitely there is a possibility that real experience may not be there, but certainly a demonstration by the instructor is no less impactful. Can be costly as it requires materials for demonstration, yes. Time consuming, it requires a lot of support systems, not based on learning by doing. Obviously, learning by doing is good for certain category of learners, and here not everybody is doing it. But as I told just a few minutes ago, that the demonstration generally precedes learning by doing in many cases. So I think one of you also said flight simulation, car simulation, driving simulation, all these things, the demos are actually precede before you actually get into the action of doing on your own. All right. So we have done this. What we are going to do now is we are going to do an activity here, and I would require at least 4 of you to volunteer. I think we'll have sufficient time. We'll be able to just do this activity. And these 4 people only will speak during the activity. Before that, I would show you this video, and this is about 8 minutes, and immediately after that activity will start. So can I have 4 names who would like to participate? It is going to be a discussion for a demonstration for a certain concept, which we are calling it as, the concept that we're going to discuss is defensive versus non-defensive communication. Yeah, one is Amit.
Sir, I can be part of it.
Sorry?
Jigar.
Yeah, any other? Two more? Can we have 2 more? Debyan?
Garima.
Debyan and Garima. Okay. Debyan and Garima. Okay. I have written your names. So immediately after this is over, we will get into the activity. So just keep watching this.
174 Excel formulas. Can you believe it? Yes, now you can use 174 Excel formulas in Microsoft Excel without ever trying to memorize them.
Once I realized that we've been using the rules of war as the
Is it visible and audible?
and I realized
Yes, sir, absolutely. Clearly audible.
The purpose
Yeah.
of conversation, or you want to bend. Once I realized that we've been using the rules of war as the basis for conversation, and I realized how contradictory that is to the purpose and intention of conversation. Because in a war, you want to defend yourself in order to protect yourself, and you do use trying to get control over the other person or power struggle as the means to get what you want. In conversation, it becomes much more open. In order to be successful and have a good conversation, it requires being more open and more direct and honest. So I began to think about what would it take to shift from a model of communication where we use defensiveness for self-protection and power struggle to get our needs met, not all the time, but a significant amount of the time, to a model of communication where we would have full power and be able to be open and vulnerable and still protect ourselves and also be much more direct and honest. And so the first thing I realized we needed to change was intention. And when I talk about changing intention, I think in many respects, I'm really talking about using power in a different way. So that when I'm in power struggle with somebody, It doesn't have to mean that I'm fighting to get them to do what I want, although it might be that I might be trying to get someone to convince someone to do what I want them to do. But in many times we are communicating in a way where we're not seeing ourselves exactly, but we're seeing ourselves as just trying to get someone to listen to us. Or trying to give a family member, a friend, a piece of advice that we think would help them with their life. But even no matter how subtle it is, I think it's still power struggle because I'm still reaching out and trying to get you to do something that I think you should do or I want you to do. And when that happens, my intention is, no matter how beneficial I think it might be to you, my intention is still to control you in some way. And when I reach out and try to move you or convince you or control you, the odds are extremely high that you're going to resist. And so the power struggle is going to continue. And many times then we're actually really, when we're trying to help someone, we're often simply helping to entrench them in their own position. Once I shift my intention and I'm not trying to control how you respond, it doesn't mean I can't have strong feelings or that there's something I want for you that I think would help you. But if I shift and I'm not trying to control your response, then there are several other things I think I need to change. And I think those things are related to what I think that was our three basic forms of communication. And the first one is questions. And so if I'm shifting from what I call the war model to a non-defensive model, in the war model, when you ask questions, you're often sending double messages or you're entrapping people. I think I mentioned once before that when I looked up the word question in the dictionary, I never found it defined with curiosity, but it was defined over and over again with the word interrogation. So if I want to ask questions, and do it in a way where I'm more likely to disarm defensiveness and diffuse or even eliminate power struggle, then I need to shift from asking questions in a way that makes people feel interrogated to a way that makes people feel actually safe and want to open up. And so then the next thing I thought about was how we make our statements. And in the dictionary, the statement is actually defined as the art of persuasion. Or convincing people. And again, that idea about convincing relates to the intention. If I'm trying to convince you, then I'm also trying to control you. So my next question was, how could I make statements without engaging in something that's going to cause resistance? And I realize there are two parts to any statement. One is when I give feedback to another person. And the other part is when I state my own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. So I thought, in order to communicate with non-defensive power, the next thing we would have to do is to be able to give feedback so that instead of people feeling criticized and judged, which in a, one person in power up and the other person power down, who's winning, who's losing, much of the time when we're giving feedback to people, we tend to do it in a way that has more judgment or criticism. So how could we give feedback to people in a way that they actually felt respected and wanted to hear what we had to say? And then the second part about stating our own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, that we would, in order to make the shift, we would need to communicate in a way where we would state our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, but not passively, but with full passion. But how could we do it in a way where we're not trying to control the other person and get them to agree with us and causing alienation? How could we state it in a way that we could be heard much more easily and not be in the position where we're doing something that's going to alienate that person? And the last one is along with questions and statements, which includes giving feedback and stating our own position. The third form of communication, I believe, is predictions, which we often think of as limit setting. When the parent says to the kid, if you don't get dressed, then you can't watch TV. So a prediction is telling the person, if you do a particular thing, then the consequence, if you don't get dressed, the consequence would be you can't watch TV. If you do get dressed, the consequence would be you can watch TV. In this case, I had to think about, when I looked in the dictionary, the word prediction was defined as punishment, retribution, again, something that's very controlling. If you don't do what I want you to do, then somehow you're going to be punished. So I had to think about if we were going to communicate with non-defensive power, how would we make predictions so that instead of people feeling punished, people would actually become more confident and be more reciprocal. And that's when I thought about the prediction actually could be something where, like in our physical world, we predict the consequences of our movement. If I were going to step down the stairs and I misjudged it, I could fall and break my leg. So in that sense, the prediction in its natural form would create a certain sense of security. So I would know how to anticipate the consequences of my behavior. So that meant that we would need to shift from making predictions in a way that is threatening or punitive or designed to control the other person, to simply letting the other person know how we were going to respond depending on what choice they made, so that they actually would have the security of predictability. And so all of the rest of my work and many of the stories that I will tell in other videos are based on this kind of shift from using questions, statements, and predictions in almost more like weapons of war designed to control or manipulate, to a process that has an intrinsic power, asking questions with pure curiosity, making statements as a way to give feedback, but not try to control the person, and making predictions that allow people to anticipate the consequences of their choices and therefore, I think, make better choices. So as if you're interested and want to hear some of the other stories that I'm going to tell about how this process works, you can have this in mind as a frame of reference to understand how I made some of the shifts between what I call the war model and the model that I've developed called powerful non-defensive communication.
Okay. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So having done that, basically what we've understood is what is the defensive and non-defensive communication in organization. We basically talk about the organizational context and the psychological definition of defensive and non-defensive communication. Basically, defensive communication is evaluative, controlling, strategizing, neutral, superior, or overly certain. And the non-defensive or less defensive communication is descriptive, problem-oriented, spontaneous, empathetic, egalitarian, and professional. This is, but then when you are working in the organization, and all of you know, in organizations, most awaited thing in the entire year is the appraisal and the consequence of appraisal. I think all of us work for 1 year or 6 months, whatever the time period that we have, and we always look forward for the appraisal. And appraisal is generally a nightmare for many. And then you always have the surprise and the shocks at the end of the appraisal. And if you remember those conversations, I think those 4 of you who have given the names for participation in the discussion now, I hope all of you have gone through at least one cycle of appraisal. Have you?
Yes.
Many, sir.
Many. Okay. All right. So I'm sure all of us go through this, and all of us have some good memories of it, and some of us have some bad memories of it. So think about what we discuss now. All the others, please mute yourself, and till the discussion is over, what you can do, whenever you see the this slide is going to be on. So therefore, whenever you see some statement coming from the participants who are demonstrating as the defensive versus non-defensive communication, just type in the chat box which of those words are they demonstrating. I mean, what we are trying to do is I mean, this is something which all of us have to go through, and it is a very effective way of demonstrating how this communication actually happens in the organizations versus the defensive versus the non-defensive. And at the end of the discussion, we'll just have a quick review and summary of it, and that will be very, very interesting. So shall we go ahead? So Amit, Devayan, Garima and Jigar will be keeping their videos on throughout the discussion. And the topic for discussion is value of annual performance appraisal. So here we go. We will not disturb you till the discussion is over. The participants, others, make keen observation. Listen to each word of what they are speaking and see whether it falls under, whether you can conclude whether it is a defensive statement or a less defensive or a non-defensive statement. Okay, thank you, and please go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
So starting with value of annual appraisal. So it is the most valuable, I must say, from my point of view. The annual appraisal, the whole year we wait and we work hard for that day. So it's a very valuable and very important part of professional, journey or life, or when you are working somewhere. So what do you think, Amit?
So, Garima, my question, I mean, I do agree it's an important aspect, but my question to you is how happy are you with regards to your last appraisal?
See, seriously speaking, I'm not very uh, not very satisfied and happy of my last appraisal, because I switched my company and I got into the appraisal cycle just in 6 months. So I was appointed for some other reason in other domain, but I was put into something much different scenario when it comes to appraisal, and I was evaluated on the basis of what I didn't do actually.
It always happens that way, right? Appraisals are meant to be that way.
So, Amit,
So
let us put it across in a different manner. How many of us are happy with the annual appraisal?
So I guess none
Very
of us
few of
were
us.
happy. None of us
So
were
that
very
Very
is
happy.
few.
absolutely
Yeah.
right. So it is
See,
what matters is if everybody is not happy with the annual appraisal, then it is no fun about cribbing, right? You still are going
Jigar,
to work
let
again.
me ask you something,
annual
Jigar,
these
Yeah, yeah,
annual
go ahead, go
appraisals
ahead,
let
are
go
me
ahead.
kind
ask
of
you
drivers
something.
of the.
How much
See,
One
percent
person at one
range do
time.
you, how much percent range do you expect or you get in your company? Can you just, justify your work and the percentage of appraisal you got?
okay, before we
We are
start
not
with
So
that,
creeping.
before we
We're
start
not
with that,
creeping.
Garima and Jigar, just a quick thought out here so that we don't deviate from the main discussion. In terms of value of annual performance appraisals, now definitely it has value. That's what I at a personal level feel. So what do you all feel? You can raise your hand or you can show thumbs down if
Yes,
you feel whether
definitely.
it's valuable or
It's
not.
the
So
Yes.
most
it is
Yes.
valuable.
valuable, 100% it is valuable, but I believe that it is not only an annual process. The process is month on month, quarter on quarter, and half yearly as well, because otherwise it becomes very, very difficult at the end of the year when the thing is over, and then you start to say dissect and say कि ये अच्छा नहीं हुआ, वो अच्छा नहीं हुआ. उससे अच्छा you give the opportunity for the person to improve, and then maybe you can tell, okay, this is what you have done well, and let us see
It
how
depends.
for next year what are you
Correct,
going to
correct.
do better.
So,
It
Jigar,
depends on
sorry to
organization
interrupt.
to organization, isn't
Sorry
it?
to interrupt. What I'm saying is, let's go step by step. Otherwise, what will happen is probably we have very limited time and we'll end up
Yeah.
consuming that. So the first point being, do all of us agree that appraisal, performance appraisal is necessary and important?
Yes, of
Let's not
course.
have any
Yeah.
discussion in terms of whether it's good, bad, how exactly it could be. So all of us agree. Four of us, all of us
Yeah.
agree. Moving on, my thought is whose responsibility it is for the appraisal, performance appraisal? Is it the appraisee or is it the appraiser? Appraisee
Both,
in the sense,
both,
if
Both,
let's say
both,
It's
I
both.
it's
report
both.
to Rouser, Rouser is going to appraise me. I'm the appraisee. I'm performing in that year.
Yeah.
Rouser is going to be my manager, my boss, who's going to give the
So it is
appraisal in
both,
terms of
both.
the discussion.
Amit, it is
So
both.
you
both
agree
are
it is
important.
Okay, so everybody agrees on point number 2 also.
Yes, yes, both,
Now,
both.
point number 3, just a thought, you all also can pitch in. Many companies have something called as mid-year review. So
Yeah.
that is one aspect. Second thing is in terms of how employees get promoted, as against the theoretical part, as against what happens in reality. I think we also need to look at those aspects, right? At the beginning
Yeah.
of the year, we do have annual operating plan, we do have KRAs, KPIs set on the basis of whatever framework is used, and the employee starts working. Does it happen in the month of April? Your appraisal, does it happen in the month of April? At least in my company, in my experience of 20 years, it has never happened in the
Depends.
month of April. It goes all the way up to May, June.
It depends.
So
Like somewhere
the
in
KR and
India, you
KPIs,
can say
yeah, the
you can see
KPIs and
people having the appraisal on the month of October or September. It depends on the performance and the annual
mm,
budget also.
Yeah,
Correct.
So I
and
have a
So by the
question
time
here.
you
I
are
have a question here.
are we talking about the salary increment, or are we talking
no,
about
no,
the
no, no.
appraisal to be
one second.
completed?
Entirely. If you are
No,
getting
in
an
my
appraisal, you
organization,
definitely
we complete the appraisal by March.
See, when we say appraisal,
One
often
second,
what
one
happens
second.
is people have
it's as a
confusion about
whole
what exactly
actually.
is
It's an
appraisal.
entire process.
Hold on, Amit, one second. I think let us not get into these operational details of thing. Basically, we are trying to focus on the communication between the appraiser and the appraisee. How the experience goes. I think month, percentage, all that is secondary. Basic is the communication. How good or bad, how threatening or non-threatening is the issue that we are discussing, the communication process. So can you focus on your experience during your appraisal interview with your superiors?
So
Sure.
I want to
So,
add, my reporting manager just judged me, or I can say evaluated me on the basis of the KPIs she has given me, right? But with the company, I had some different KPI and KRAs. So that is one thing. The point of view of your, appraise uh, the your manager or the person who is, giving you the appraisal feedback. So the point of view, what she or he is having in mind, does makes a difference in your appraisal.
so
So
in my
during my
case,
zonal head as a,
in
I
my
have a point to
case,
raise. I have a point to share. That is the kind of liaison that you are having with the reporting manager and the entire team. That also plays a good part out there, because if you are not, that much communicative and your messages are not that much well, and people are not quite good enough to collaborate with you in terms of operations and management part. So in that case, your appraisal would be a big question. So as a whole, if I talk about the employee appraisal, it's an entire all-round part. Whether you are, ethically enough to enter, complete your job, whether you are collaborating with the other team members properly, whether you
Sometimes
are
it
completing
happens
your
that
KRA and
someone is working
KPIs.
very hard and fulfilling all the requirements of his or her KPI KRAs, but still he or she is not able to present it
Yeah,
properly or
yeah,
communicate it
yeah.
to the reporting manager properly. So that is one of the reason why the
Here,
well.
actually, the person will have to talk with his manager or her manager in terms of doing all these things, because sometimes it happens like if we are having some kind of new team member in our team. Now, if he or she comes over there, some kind of team is having some kind of approach, like they will try to put him on the corner, even if he or she is performing well. There some kind of a negative environment creates over there, like a new joinee comes over here, and then he's putting his all efforts and we are getting out of the radar. So it depends on the culture that the company is having, and more of it's the responsibility of the appraiser. Actually, he is the only one who will be guiding through the entire organization and the entire team. So his role is very much important out there, because as a manager, what I do is like, if I'm having a team of 10 or 15 people out there, it's my responsibility to organize a one-to-one chat for with each and every employee for each and every week. So it's my responsibility as well, and team building activities, like getting people all around and discussing anything out of their work schedule. It's not only just the things that you are doing in your team. It's more of whatever you are doing in a personal life also, it comes into play. So as a whole, appraisal, it's
I
not just because of
disagree, Dibyan.
performance.
I disagree on
Okay,
this.
I'll pitch in over
Personally, what
here.
you do is
I'll pitch in here because what will happen is agree, disagree. I mean, person will always talk in terms of his or her experience. So at least my appraisals till date, it always happened at the last moment. Although the boss might say, okay, let's catch up today at 2 o'clock, but then that 2 o'clock would go until 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. At times, it has also happened 8 o'clock in the evening. So, which I feel it's very traumatic because as a candidate or as a appraisee, you have lot many things going on in your head, and the other person is not being very responsible. However, when I had a team, I always ensured that they are informed at least a week in advance, or at least 4 to 5 days in advance. I would give them the liberty to pick a particular time slot of, let's say, anywhere between 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and we catch up at that particular point of time. For whatever reason, unfortunately, let's say on few occasions I wasn't able to make up for that time. I always tried and ensured that I give them an alternative in terms of, let's say, today or tomorrow at so and so time, maybe 4 days down the line, 5 days down the line. So I think that way we try to set the context in terms of how we start. In my view, personal view, my own thought process being, we should always start on a good note. Instead of we as a appraiser talking too much about how the other person has performed very badly or otherwise, we should let the other person speak. So when we talk about how you felt, how the year went by, what were the good things that
That's
you
what I
achieved,
was
what
talking
are you
about.
proud of, what are your
Yeah.
achievements. So that way it gives the other person a comfort zone wherein the person will talk a lot, which is a very good thing. Because in my personal view, the way I practice it is, it's not about the other person, it's about the job he or she is expected to do. Often people who do appraisal, they try to focus the person at an individual level. So the idea is not to create a traumatic outcome for the person, but something that the person can learn and then that person can go ahead. So I used to always have monthly discussions, monthly reviews, so that it doesn't become like the ad wherein we have jor ka jhatka dheere se lage, something of that sort. Often people, what they do is they get up towards the end of the year and then they start telling the other person that this is how you have performed, which is bad. Unfortunately, at that particular point of time, person doesn't have the scope to improve himself or herself. But month on month basis, at least to know what's happening, what's not happening, and again you have 6 months review, which may be critical, may not be critical in terms of the discussion that you have. It will always set the tone for the next 6 months, because again you are responsible for their performance. So if your team is going bad, in a way, you as a manager, as a leader, it's your mistake. That's my way of thinking.
Yeah, I have a
that is
question to
that is the
Garima.
example of good communication.
Garima, you said
Yes.
that your KPIs on which you are hired are different from the KPIs which you are asked to perform. During the appraisal, did you have the freedom to discuss with, have a freewheeling discussion with your supervisor?
Yes, sir, I had, and sorry to say and sorry to tell you that my manager is so empathetic to me, and uh, every when I was in trouble, or I used to go to her with a problem statement, every time she had a different, you know, thing coming up to me saying that this will happen and this should be happen because due to this reason. She always have 3 or 4 reasons ready with her. So I stopped, putting my problems to her and trying to resolve the problems by myself. So this is what how I carried my journey of 1 year in my current company, and it's still going on. Every now and then she puts me in some other mail trail and assign me some third kind of work which I am not supposed to perform apart from my routine work. So that is how I feel, but now I am used to it, and I now know how to handle things at that because the door are always closed for my problems and my issues for her.
Okay. So last 2 minutes, I think you can conclude.
So just
So I
wanted to
think
share my experience
in terms
also.
of how the appraisals are
Amit,
conducted,
Amit, Amit, Amit.
yeah, hi Jigar, go ahead, go
Just
ahead.
wanted to share my experience as well. So during when I was a zonal head, to my team also, I would give appropriate time to hear from them as to what they have been able to do. Here only one thing is that I want to mention is there's a rating scale from 0 to 5 that have they been able to rate. So rather than only the emotions being captured, the rating scale for their performance also is noted, and that is how they are able to understand what they have been able to do well and what they have not been able to do well, or where they can improve in their further course of time. And there is always scope for, apart from the points that are mentioned in the KRS and the KPIs, what else they have done additionally well, and where are the support required which they wanted from me and I was not able to be part of them.
And
And
basic
when
idea is
I was, yeah,
communicating these things to your Prezi, right? It's
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
communicating these things properly to your manager or
appraisal.
reporting person, right?
Yeah.
But my experience as a appraisee was not quite encouraging. So I used to hardly have been given an opportunity to showcase what I have been doing the entire year, and it was always a one-way communication. So there are two different sides of the story. So that is how the appraisal and appraisee on my learning personal experience.
I think we will stop there because we don't have much time. We are left with another 6 minutes. That's a good discussion, and I thank you all for your uh, sharing your personal experiences. Uh, Two persons have very continuously been giving us feedback in terms of the conceptual mapping. One is Babita and the other one is Sairam. So Babita and Sairam, in 1 minute, each one of you can summarize what your observations are. First,
Okay, I'll go
Babita.
for, yeah, I'll go. So, she, I think we bit of deviated the topic into the operational bit, though. I think we, if at all, we had focused on the communication bit. I think we went into the right track after some time. I think we could have learned a bit more, but there are different experiences by each one of them who have shared. I think where it was some it also shows about the leadership style or the management style of different managers and a different. It also talks about the kind of culture that they have brought in, or the process that they have been through, either managers or the employees. So we as a HR, even though we are employees, we still face the problem of not having a right performance discussions for ourselves, though we preach the topic, right? So I could see that kind of emotions coming within us ourselves, being a HR team, where we try to educate the other teams to do a right way, but the problem still exists everywhere, right? So that's one. But I think what I see is the problem exists everywhere in a similar context, where I think it also depends upon the leadership style, or what they believe in. According to my experiences, what I could probably share for a few seconds is that there are a belief in the process by the management team too, right? Whether they believe the process or not. I think that also leads to driving the process in the right sense. It's not about educating them, you need to do this, this is a process from the theoretical perspective. It's also a strong individual belief that will carry to the entire process towards. So I feel in my case, the managers have manager don't believe the performance appraisal process. They don't believe in the rating. So it's always a pre-decided thing between the teams. So as much as you be very descriptive and you be very empathetic, or you tell about your work and what you have done, it's always pre-decided. So finally, it's a discretion of the manager where they want to really place the employee. So again, what I'm trying to say here is, I think whatever I listen, it's quite correlatable to me as well. I think it happens in every organization. It's a different style, different culture, different leadership style play a very important role in the entire process, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Sairam, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm audible.
Yeah, yeah.
Good morning to all. First, I would like to just share my observations based on the discussion happened. Initially, people were, and like for example, just to quote, Babita was spontaneous with her reactions on the topic, on how her appraiser used to come up with a ready-made answer to whatever questions or issues she had been describing descriptive, but and the appraiser was controlling her and overly certain and superior. So that way, sorry, Garima, not Babita, sorry, Garima. So that was the kind of thing which is there in almost commonly every corporate world now, because that is the way management thinks they work and they will get the work done by the subordinates. And in case of Amit, he was trying to be the neutral and trying to have a evaluative perspective and a problem-oriented approach, so that he not taking a side and trying to evaluate. So that way was the experience of Amit and Jigar, Mr. Jigar and Devian also had a similar this one, but it was almost coming into these categories only. So these were the observations which I could get from the experiences shared by the committee panel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think basically, if you see the kind of expressions that they made, when it comes to there being an appraisee, they were always in the defensive situation. But at least some of them, Amit at least expressed that he would like to create a less defensive atmosphere when he goes to his, when he becomes an appraiser. But all of you, by and large, will acknowledge that appraisals are mainly focused mainly on the defensive way of communication. So if you want to really conduct and communicate to your trainees what is the defensive communication and non-defensive communication, a demonstration using some of the trainees can be very, very effective. At least people will start reflecting on that subsequently. And this is a very useful tool from that perspective. So let's listen to what Suman Singh has to say. Yes, Suman, please.
Good morning, sir. I have I have an example to share. My previous boss had a very nice way of giving us appraisals. Every time we would come to her, she would start by just asking us, how was your year? The things like she would just throw um, she would ask questions and slowly put us into that whirlpool of self-assessment, how we were through the year. And then she would go a little specific about certain projects that we were doing, and like what our part was in that project. And wherever she felt little this thing, she would like, okay, that was very nice, but then you could add a little bit of AI to it, or maybe something like that. So she would suggest also. So by the end of the half an hour, it was mostly just we talking and she was just listening. And you would end up feeling that, oh, we have a lot to improve and there's a lot to learn. And then so that was a very nice way of, very constructive and very good way of, I think, giving appraisal. And we would go out of the room feeling that, okay, we have a lot more to learn and we can improve. And it was a very positive way of giving appraisal. So I think everybody was very happy with her. There
Okay.
wasn't any
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience. And basically what you're saying is when the communication during this appraisal process is less defensive, you will be
Yes,
feeling
sir.
much more comfortable. And this is the feel-good factor that you will create. So I'm sure all of you, whoever is in the call today, will carry home this message. If you are appraising your subordinates, use a non-defensive communication. Let whatever Suman Singh has just now shared, let that process be there. I think your team will be much more happier. The last word.
I felt there was a little deviation from the objective. Demonstrate 12 qualities of defensive versus non-defensive communication. So if somebody can jot down those 12 qualities, that will help us understand. That'd be great. If Amit can do, or anybody can do that.
No. 1 second. I think this video is available to you subsequently. You can go through this 20 minutes of conversation and then try to map the statements that each of those 4 participants in the discussion, what reflects, which of those qualities are reflected in that. You can map them, and that will be helpful to each one of us, whoever is doing this exercise, to understand whether it is a defensive communication or a non-defensive communication.
Okay. I felt the communication was more process-oriented than being qualitative. So that's the reason. Sorry if I'm going wrong somewhere.
Okay, Amit, would you like to respond? Actually, he has put it to you. So would you like to respond?
Sure. So probably what happened was time was short, and considering the topic and the nature of the topic, it's bound to happen that all of us, we would be having a lot of emotions associated with it, and somewhere it reflected that way. Although all of us, we tried correcting each other not to do that. So what I feel is setting the tone in terms of your appraisal, that is one aspect. It has to be a positive approach. And again, it is not the last minute thing. So all the pointers which are there on the slide in terms of evaluative, controlling, strategizing, although on the defensive side it's mentioned as evaluative controlling, but if it is used properly, that itself can act as a positive aspect. That's what I feel. Evaluative in terms of, you don't do the evaluation towards the end telling the person that you went wrong throughout the year. You do that evaluation quarterly, monthly, let's say every 6 months. So that way, that negative aspect automatically will become a positive, because you're continuing that conversation throughout the year. Strategizing, you don't do strategizing at the beginning of the year. It has to be all throughout, because you have to do course correction. Controlling, in my view, the way I work, I don't believe in controlling people. You need to unleash them. That's what I believe in. So if they have the potential, you unleash them. As a manager, as a leader, your job should be to provide what they require rather than doing micromanagement. That's where most people go wrong. And most importantly, what I feel is, you should look yourself how you would feel if somebody who is at like topmost level treats you that way. So there is a very well-known popular story about the monkeys. The topmost monkey controls the middle managerial monkey, and the middle managerial monkey controls the lowmost one. We should not get into that particular kind of zone, irrespective of what's happening around. So to answer further, setting the context, having a proper decorum, timely appraisal should be done. Often what happens is, it becomes a HR headache. HR keeps sending multiple reminders, then the deadlines are pushed, and again when the employee feels bad about it that his or her appraisal hasn't happened, the person feels offended why everybody is getting
I mean,
completed.
so that is where I felt this is more process oriented, because the time doesn't come into the objective here. He's talking about when I am having an appraisal going on, and when the communication is happening, am I being defensive or am I being non-defensive is the question here. The objective talks about not
So
the
that's what
time.
I'm saying. So what's happening is, you're looking at the climax of the movie. I'm saying the movie begins from the beginning.
Okay.
So what happens at the conversation, in my view, and from the broader perspective, technically it doesn't matter, because your appraisal should be in a way wherein the employee himself or herself is aware how he or she has performed. It should be a purely discussion of 15-20 minutes. Probably if the resources are limited, probably the employee might not get a hike, might not get the growth. That's a different thing. Because appraisal after a year is not going to yield anything for the business. So that's what I'm saying. The conversation has to be all throughout the year.
Amit, I think whatever you're all saying is very right, both you and Siddhant. Basically, today what we really wanted to demonstrate is the experience that one goes through in the communication process of the appraisal. That is what we wanted to see. And then by and large, I think there is a consensus that it is pretty defensive when it comes to you being the appraisee, and your boss is always evaluative, controlling and all that. But some of you, at least some of you express, we do not know what your subordinates feel. This is your perspective. But when you go to your subordinates, they also feel that you are really not non-defensive. You may be feeling that you are non-defensive, but your subordinates may feel that you are they're going through a defensive experience.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Maybe so. What we should have done is, we should have done a role play. Probably two of us, we would have acted as
that is next time. Next time when we have that. See, role play also comes after demonstration. Once you finish the demonstration, you next level you can drive the learning through role plays. Okay, I think it's a great discussion. All of you have really been immersed in the discussion, and the way people have reacted, I'm sure there is certain learning and certain takeaways. And
thank you, Amit, and thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I think we're already 10 minutes beyond the class time, and the next class we'll have to attend. So we'll close it here. And next week we have a session on the case study. So what I will do is I'll send you a case study in advance. So please go through that, and we will have a open house case study discussion. It is not a group presenting or anything like that. So please go through the case, come prepared with your points, and then we will have a great case study discussion. So till then, till we meet again next week, thank you very much. It's been a very interesting session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir. Good day. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.